Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel about content, where to start, how to succeed. It's a very broad topic, so thankfully, I'm not covering it on my own at all. In fact, I've got three amazing speakers that I'm sure you'll all know, but if not, we'll get to know very quickly. I'd like them all to introduce themselves because they'll be better at it than I am, and we'll go alphabetical. So how about we go Danny, then Corinna, then Zan. Danny, if you'd like to just say a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll go through like that, and then we'll get on to some questions.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us on this Friday evening. I'm Danny Lopez. I have been in esports now for about 7+ years. Done everything from creative directing to marketing. Now sit as marketing and content. I'll try and keep it as short as possible, but I guess I started out with Fnatic in 2015, did a few years with them. And then I did some freelancing, worked with the likes of Riot and Face It and a couple of other orgs along the way. Then I found myself in the States working with Immortals. And then after that, NYXL on the Overwatch League. Also managed to do a little bit of work with Dr. Disrespect and Astralis and Blast. And then most recently, I was Director of Marketing and Content at Guild Esports and did that for a little over a year. And I've been freelancing and sort of contracting ever since. So, yeah.
Basically, you keep yourself busy, by sounds of it.
Yeah, it's been busy 7 years. I'm tired.
There we go. And Corinna, you go up next, please. And thank you.
Hi guys. I'm Karina. I'm absolutely not tired. To be honest, maybe because I recently had a little bit of a break. So, to give a little bit of background, I come from a country called Lithuania. I've been in Germany for the last 9 years, 7, 8 of them basically in esports. I sort of have, well, not sort of. I do have career as a journalist. I did my official university master's and bachelor's degrees in that, and then try to sort of bring in my skills to esports. Started off with actually Fnatic, met Daniel there briefly, and then worked in a German company called Freaks for You Gaming, and most recently 4.5 years been with G2 Esports as head of content until very recently. And now I am a little bit of an in-between stage where I'm preparing my secret big project and doing some consulting in the meantime for content marketing, brand strategy and whatnot. But you can ask more about this later. Over to you, Zan.
Hi everyone. So my name is Zan. I am a strategy consultant and I specialize in marketing, brand, and content. My background is that I grew up in Malaysia and Australia and spent most of my adult life, all of my adult life really in Europe and unfortunately now the UK since it's not part of Europe. I came from a slightly different background, even though it's in esports, but my most recent job before I turned into a consultant was I worked at Riot Games. I was the head of esports marketing, where I took care of everything from LEC to VCT EMEA to basically all the potential new esports titles that Riot were about to launch. Before that, I was the global commissioning editor at Red Bull for esports. And in between, I basically did a bunch of content management, content strategy, and I was also working in agency for clients like Puma, consumer brands like luxury watches, Corona beers, household brands like Electra Bragans and Grundig. And my clientele right now is a mix of everything from esports orgs to VR companies to Red Bull to Riot to, all the sorts, basically. So that's me.
I feel massively underqualified, so it's good I'm just a moderator and not a panel member as well. But so going into the kind of the first topic, myself and as well as within my role at Hitmarker, I kind of see a lot of questions about where to start. That seems to be like the very first hurdle that you have to jump over, and of course it's in the title of this panel as well. So realistically, I think it's a good place to start. Now, I don't necessarily want to ask you guys like your journeys because I'm sure you've gone through lots in your time to get to where you are now. But do you guys have any resources or sage pieces of advice as to identifying a good place to start? Because obviously content is a broad umbrella. Like it can go from, I guess, a 7-second TikTok all the way to a documentary, and obviously there's a bunch of roles in making content happen and bringing it to life and such. So I wonder if anyone on the panel has any good advice for identifying like where somebody could go into and then how to do so. If I don't know if anyone wants to jump in first, or if not, I'll start picking on you.
I don't mind jumping in.
Let's go.
I'll jump in on the first one, and then someone does the next one.
There we go. Perfect.
So I think in terms of advice, there's two things that I always try to tell people. First of all, be honest with yourself and identify what you're capable of and like what you want to do. So in terms of honesty, I always give this comparison, like not every person who likes to play football with friends can be a professional football player, and not every person who, I don't know, likes drawing is becoming an artist. So I think the person needs to understand that you need to commit, let's say, to a certain skill, and then of course you have to do it. And the second part of it, once you sort of create something, a product that can be like, you can be a caster, a product can be your voice, or can be anything that you're working on, really, then you have to put it out there. Because if you just create but no one has ever seen it, like, you're not going to succeed. And I think, like, for example, video editor role is an amazing example of that, because this is how all of, or most of the video editors for esports get picked up, because they edit something, put on their channel, and then people like, oh my god, this guy or this girl, they can do it. So I think identify your skill, figure out what you want to do it, and put it out.
Lovely stuff. Well said. Anyone?
Yeah, I
There we
think.
go, Zan.
Oh, sorry, Danny, you want to go next, or?
There you go.
Okay. So I just wanted to echo what Karina said. I actually, rather than, finding a niche or specialty, I think I recommend the same, like trying to find your purpose, what you're good at, learn, experiment, especially if you're starting off and you are, let's say, just graduate or fresh graduate from university and still figuring out like what works for you. Don't be afraid to experiment, because the reality is that, esports is still relatively young. I know that it's not as young as it used to be, but there's always space for growth, right? Don't be afraid to evolve. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to learn from your mistakes. And eventually, like, the more experience you get, the more you will actually be able to figure out like what you're good at, what you need to learn, what you're comfortable with, and what you need to challenge yourself with to eventually figure out what works for you. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Lovely stuff. And Danny?
Yeah, there's some great things said there. Definitely some really good advice. For me, I think it's just about as well, like, I think often people wonder about different entries as well. Do I need to have a degree? Do I need to have a qualification or not? And obviously that's always a hot topic, isn't it? Especially in esports, with I'm sure some people hopefully here in this chat are studying as well in some of the, the degrees that are offered in the country. But it's not always necessary, is it? I think that's it. For me, I did go and get a degree in film and TV production, which has helped me with my storytelling and my, able to conceptualize and script write and all of those types of things. But it's not always necessary. I've met some great self-taught people as well. And I think that's the other part of it, is about, exactly what Karina was saying about being honest with yourself and trying and putting yourself to it. It's, you've actually got to do and to get over that barrier and get over that hurdle and doing it, which is the hardest thing for all of us in anything. I still struggle today trying new things and getting around to doing those. So yeah, it is about trying, doing, and just knocking on doors as well, and networking as well. That's a really key part of it, because eventually you'll meet somebody that will give you that opportunity. I can even look back at yesterday where I shot with a relatively new photographer in the space, just from putting out a tweet and it reaching out to people and people tagging other people and people that weren't available that maybe I would have normally gone with, and had a fantastic day shooting with that photographer. So yeah.
Well, stuff. So plenty of great advice there. I think no matter what you do, everyone can relate to the fear of like putting yourself out there and doing something new for the first time. where they're potentially getting some criticism or like no views or something along those lines. So that there's some valuable stuff there. And one thing I wanted to qualify really early on, because I just think it's important. Effectively, like what necessarily is good content? How do you judge that? Because somewhat it's subjective, I suppose, but also I'm sure there are objectives leading into certain pieces of content that you put together, especially for, I don't know, like activating a brand or something along those lines, or I don't know, advertising a partnership. So, is there a set way to judge what good content is, or does it depend on what it is you're actually working on? I guess, like, Karina, obviously you've done a lot of amazing stuff for G2. I think like the Adidas thing stands out for me a lot. The partnership announcement there. Like, how do you judge and assess what a good piece of content actually is?
Oh, this is like a tough question, you know.
Good.
Yeah,
That means I'm doing my job.
honestly, I would, you know, even though like I'm holding the one of the awards was for this Adidas piece that you, Adam, are referring to. So I put this photo on the profile, not to flash, but just so it's more recognizable. But yeah, speaking about good content, I think first you need to understand the audience and what the purpose is. And good content can be so many different things. And what's good for one company or one brand is not going to be good for another. And sometimes you can put out the most beautiful graphics and ton of production money, and it's not going to be good in the end. So it seems like with movies, you know, sometimes like in Hollywood, they splash like God knows how many millions and movie is just like meh. So I think it's just really identifying what you're trying to achieve and sort of, you know, there's like a lot of quality control in content because first you need to know what you're trying to do there, then do the piece, and then actually see how it performs. And I think like the last element is probably the most important because it's how audience reacts to it, how many people have watched, what you were trying to achieve, and like have you successfully done so. So I would say there is no set formula. Sometimes like a TikTok will be like incredible and it's gonna blow up, and the next time you're trying to replicate it, it just doesn't work. So I think like brand fitting and like sort of natural, organic, and relatable is probably like the key factors to look out for. But there is no, you know, one fit all sort of type of thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyone want to add on to that, or are we good?
I'm happy to
Danny,
admit
go for it.
towards that. Yeah. I think first of all, for me, I've always said what I love about the esports space, and when I took a bit of a break from it, and then the reason why I came back to it is because the community is going to let me know what's good content and bad content. They're the most vocal and responsive people I've ever seen from an audience ever, and I think that's what I love about it because they're the ones I make the content for at the end of the day. For those, you know, read all the comments, all the retweets, all that type of stuff. I'm in there looking at it all, and just, you know, and that really what makes it worthwhile at the end of it. So I think they're the sort of the final deciders on that. But one part that I always approach with everything nowadays, or more so over the past few years, is the strategy. And I think if you've got a really good strategy and it's all been planned out, then 9 times out of 10 it should be good content because you've made the plan, it's been robust, you've thought everything through, and you've executed it to the T. So yeah, I think a good strategy can make good content as well.
Yeah, just to also echo what Danny said, that was basically what I was also going to share. I think the word good is extremely subjective. But if you were to have to measure it, it's with different variables, right? So it can be anything from the strategy, objectives, purpose, your KPIs, your business goals, to quality. So visually, technically, the substance of your story, and also many other aspects, right? Like how was the process? Was it smooth? Was it last minute? Was it stressful? Was it not? The studying of algorithms, like Karina said, of like the different platforms that you decide to post it on. But I think ultimately, for me, if I had to sum it up, it's really like learn how to learn. So take the time to actually figure out how you study things, how you plan things, how you build a strategy around things, and be courageous but deliberate. because, and this is an example that I can give, when I was working on the LEC, I had to approve basically content ideas and whatnot. And I'm not going to lie, I actually nearly killed the rap battle for LEC. So if you're not familiar with it, it's actually one of the best performing pieces that the LEC publishes. And the first one, honestly, I was about to kill, but at the same time, like there was an understanding that there is interest in music with the community. There was an interest in cringy sort of content sometimes. So I honestly just gave it a go, and it turned out to be honestly the best, let's say, try that I could give. And I'm thankful for the team to actually push me towards letting them do it as well. So be courageous but deliberate.
Lovely stuff. And Danny, I want to go back to you with this one because and it actually kind of piggybacks off of the last answer there somewhat. Like when it comes to the ideation stage, so before like strategy per se, or like separate from that, how do you know you're onto a winning creative idea, or do you ever actually feel like that at all, or is there always some doubt there?
And there's always an element of doubt. I think all creatives feel it, imposter syndrome is rife in all creatives. So, but for me, I mean, in my process, I tend to take inspiration from past, whatever's going on around, what can be trending. I like to mix and match. I always like to say, there's no original idea. There's no such thing anymore. We've come too far in the world, but there can be to a certain degree of mixing and matching and reinventing something. So they're all things that you've seen somewhere before in some form of way or familiar with. And the first reaction is obviously the closest. You normally have a close network of people around you, and it's when you pitch and see their reaction, especially if you're writing comedy as well. And if you land the right moments and in your script or whatever, and you get those those moments of giggles, then you're on something. But I guess more so on set is when it tends to happen, for me anyway, when you notice that as well. And if the vibe is good on set, if everybody's enjoying it or whatever, that can be filming a TikTok, that can be anything, if that reaction is right there and people are laughing and they're enjoying it, then generally, you've got something that other people will like, because I think if people's happiness is there whilst they're making it, it does tend to transfer over. So, yeah, I guess that's mine.
Lovely stuff. Anyone else got anything to add on to that?
I think I just want to slightly disagree with Daniel here. I think that originality is not impossible. I also understand sort of like where you're coming from, but at the same time, at least throughout my time in G2, we obviously all seek inspiration, but we always try to do things in a new way, come up with like new formats, different things. So I think it's difficult, but this is what sort of makes you stand out, and like the aspiration to bring innovation. Like now we have so much new technology going on. Like the world is ever evolving, and I think like in terms of content, we also need to evolve and like be at the forefront of the change, because also like even we were in our little chat laughing about Join Dota before, but it's closing down, and it used to be such a strong platform, but it's mainly written content, and today it's not digested the same way as it was like, I don't know, 10 years ago, right? So yeah, I just wanted to jump in with that and to say that absolutely agree that we all sometimes have doubts, but I think also from experience, like partially sometimes when it's like a leap of faith and when it's worth taking, like what Zan was mentioning with like the rap battle. Sometimes you just know it's gonna work, but I think this is something that comes year after year of work and being in those different environments and like being on different sets. This is something that you gain and not something that you come with, because we all humans, we all make mistakes and sometimes maybe wrong decisions as well.
If you don't mind, I actually want to add just one more thing.
Please do.
In terms of content, this is just food for thought. But when you think about good, maybe ask yourself a few questions before you actually think about whether it's good or not. So, does a video with 1 million views, for example, beat a video with stronger substance in terms of story? Or does an article with a clickbait that attracts like millions of people to your channel beat a well-written press release? the answer is that there is no right answer to this. And just going back on the whole topic here, we talk a lot about video, but I also want to encourage people to think beyond video, because I think video is what we normally default to. But the reality is that content can come in many, many shapes or forms. You know, this is a piece of content that we're doing today, and it's audio, right? Written content, like Karina said, from Joy Dota used to be extremely popular, and I think it's still an extremely part of what content can offer. It just may not have let's say it's not shiny and new anymore, but it's still equally important, in my opinion.
No, I would agree. And moving on a little bit, though, for the context of this question, I do want it to be about producing video content. And now I don't see directors and strategists as such say this, but like if you look like some of the biggest like YouTubers in the world, they will all say that they're content creators. Now, I think that's too reductive based on what they have to do to execute videos. So I would love to be able to get a bit of insight into, I don't know, say like if you think of one product you've created particularly, like exactly what goes into making that, just to give a bit of an idea. So, Danny, I don't know whether it's the Subway and Guild thing that you did, or the one of the latest things for Tundra, for example. But would you like to like give like a brief rundown of like how much it takes to actually bring one of these videos, pieces of content to life?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give Subway Guild because you've got a client involved there, so it makes it a bit harder when you're doing it beyond the brand in terms of you have a lot more process within that, which I'm sure the others will be able to back up on that. But so it starts obviously with a brief. Normally is where it starts, and you've got a brief and you're working towards budget within that. You'll have timelines and deadlines. There'll be certain KPIs that will be outlined within that as well, what you're going to hit, whether that be views, driving conversion of follows, or even just awareness. You know, there's a number of different things that can fall under those KPIs, and sometimes they can want more than just that within that. So taking the brief and also the brand objectives within that and making sure that it stays within brand as well, because you've got their guidelines to consider, different markets, territories. So taking that and then potentially coming back with a couple of ideas of different options of ways to do that and how you bring that to market. That's what I did in the Subway one, but I felt I was onto one really strong idea, so I only went in with one. And then you've got a brand like Subway, they've got their ad agency, their PR agency, their marketing agency, different heads from different regions. So you jump on the call with, there's probably, you know, not as many people as are in here. I mean, there's a lot of people in here in comparison to earlier, but it's a good sized call, and it can be quite daunting when you're in a room with that many people and you're just put under the spotlight to pitch your concept, to pitch your idea. Mm-hmm. You pitch your idea and there may be some initial feedback there and then, whether they're going to shut it down or whether they want you to go back to the drawing board, come up with a new one. Luckily, in that instance, I've had a good run where people have liked the initial idea and asked me to go away just to work up more further on the script. So the scripting part is the next part I move into, pre-production. And then I would always work with a production partner on something of that size. I've got some good production companies and partners that I work with on those types of pieces. And they would do a lot of the sourcing for me for like locations, crew, and just the management of all of that around to that. So, it's a very long process in many ways, and there's definitely different milestones that you have to hit along the way, and you're constantly checking in with your client along the way and letting them know where you're at. But then it's just moving into pre-production, and then once that part's over, then you're the fun part, production, which a lot of people enjoy, the on-set part. Bringing in all your talent as well, making sure all that's going to work. And you often run out of time and miss some shots that you really wanted to get. It's really hard. You know, you can plan as much as you like, but it tends to always run over in some form of way. There's a lot of things that you can't account for. That's maybe, you know, electricity port isn't working, the smoke machine's not working, or, you know, the laser isn't, or you haven't got the right product that was supposed to be there that's your sponsor, and so on. And there can be many things that can go wrong on set, but you just work around it, and no one ever knows once they see the final product. Mm-hmm. And then you've obviously got your client there on set as well, so you're with them, in between them, you know, making sure they're happy with what's being captured and everything that you've sold in this initial idea, and seeing it all come together. Then you move into the post-production stage, where it obviously goes through a long edit process, your color grading, sound pass, and many different areas in that respect, and lots of client feedback rounds, and you get to your final stage of putting it out, and it's and then you breathe.
So it's more than just picking up a camera and shooting then.
Yeah,
Yeah, obviously there's a lot that goes into it, and you need a solid team throughout most, if not all, of those steps to execute. So there are plenty of different avenues you can go into when it comes to quote unquote content.
Yeah,
lovely stuff.
Yeah.
Can I jump in with like a little comment?
Please do.
Just because you mentioned, content creators. So I think it's also how the word is understood nowadays. I mean, at least like the way we use it is basically like a new word for influencers. Not to talk about influence, but like everyone who puts out any content is a content creator. So basically any streamer nowadays is a content creator, and usually the process there is very different because they have like sometimes they're moderators or small team of people who help like with the videos and whatnot. So I think it's just again sort of like repeat a little bit what Zan was saying before. At least the way I see it as well, like content comes in all sort of shapes and sizes. It can be also, broadcasting, it can be casting, it can be organizing online tournaments and events. I think at this point, most of marketing efforts is somehow content related or can be considered content. So just that.
Oh, that's great. And Zan, have you got anything you wanted to add on to that?
I think the only thing I would like to share is that, yes, content creators are something that has evolved over time, right? Like 5 years ago, was there even content creators as a word? I'm not even sure anymore. But it's very similar to like social media, right? Like back in the day, there was a very specific role that a social media manager had to do. But if you wanted to look at it now, you could break it down to an entire department of like 10, 20 people if you wanted it to. So I think that the word is no longer necessarily the same that it used to be, and it's evolved quite a bit. So content creator is quite vague, and as as Danny and you said, right, you can actually enter into content creation from many different aspects nowadays. You just have to figure out, and like we said from the beginning, like what do you like, what are your strengths, and what do you want to learn in order to get in.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And Corinne, I want to jump to you. So during your time at G2, I think increasingly it became obvious that content was a real core pillar of what the organization was doing there. And I mean, if you look at a recent successful example of a newcomer, now they've been around for a few years, but 100 Thieves came in with 3 core pillars, which was like content, apparel, and competition, of course. So like, I've heard it a lot, and I want to get your take on it. But like, content is also a means of like establishing and reinforcing the brand and such. And it seems like G2 is able to turn like losing an event or losing in a horrible way in CS:GO or something into like really good content that actually turns into a positive for the brand. So how important is content for like an esports organization overall? Is it just content, or is it also a means of or like fulfilling everything to do with the organization with brand and fan affinity and everything?
So that's actually a great question and something that we discuss behind the scenes a lot. And even like since my departure from G2, I've been talking to a lot of teams and organizers. And right now, I think everyone is understanding much better. And like we're kind of at the turning point of brand strategy, marketing efforts, content efforts becoming, as you said, like one of the core pillars, because this is the only, let's say, safe way or safety net for teams that might not do competitively so well as well, because there's only that many tournaments, there's only that many winners, and there must be something that you bring your brand through and something that you give to your partners, because this is how the revenue comes in and this is how you can pay the people. So I think this is definitely one of like the critical elements, because this is the way to show yourself to the world. Like I said, getting the partner funds and resources, but also this has to have like a complete buy-in from the whole team or organization. And I think like what G2 has done so well, it's also because Carlos is very content conscious and marketing conscious, that this was always a sort of non-negotiable. We were doing content, and I mean, I joined it back in the days when, we had the very the vacation meme basically, and we built from there. And the perception of the brand, of course, changed throughout the years. And they, after my departure, they continue to do so. But I think having this as a company priority is definitely like very significant. And this is why we have teams like G2 or 100 Thieves Shine, because they consciously make this decision to do marketing, to do content marketing, or to have some sort of like brand strategy and like work on that consistently. And everyone else who is behind, I think, is sort of catching up right now and trying to pick up the slack. So I think we're going to see, and I mean, people like Zan or myself, we literally work in the direction of, education in those matters. So it's very exciting to see a way more interest and people getting the understanding of the importance today.
Lovely stuff. Any additions?
I mean, Karina made me smile when she was talking about educating people on it, because I just want to mention that content often is the default to what people think can make you stand out, right? And oftentimes is, and I don't disagree with content being important, but I think just to take it a level deeper, really think about why you're doing it as well. Find your purpose before you start jumping on the bandwagon. Because content can be good, like you can spend like $1 million on a video and it can look beautiful, but at the same time it can be worth nothing to you at the end of the day. So I think really taking the time to understand, again, your purpose, the strategy, like Danny said, the planning, the how, the why, the who you're speaking to before you start actually doing it, all without purpose, is going to make the biggest difference.
Amazing, thank you, Danny. You got anything? If not, we'll go straight to fan questions. If not, we'll do it after your answer.
No, I mean, just for me, it's just, it's all about the brand, isn't it? That it comes down to, and that's it, and telling that brand story, and that's the first point of call to make people care. And in all honesty, I'm going to say something controversial, but I think 100 Thieves, I think half of their content sucks, to be honest with you, and I think it's quite cringy and very NA based. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Do you think that's based on their audience and such, though, or who they're trying to market to?
I think they've just become this thing, and I've heard it a lot when I go around. A lot of people, we want to be like 100 Thieves, want to be like 100 Thieves. I hear people say it about G2, want to be like G2, want to be like. You can't be. G2 is G2, 100 Thieves is 100 Thieves. Like these people have carved out their own brands and their own stories and their own messaging. Be who you're going to be and find that. That's the thing for me. So, but I look at like, just before it came onto this today, 100 Thieves dropped a new video. So many likes, so many views, so many people just eating it up for this headset video. It's honestly really bad content. It really does nothing. It's really cringy. There's nothing about it that should make somebody care. And I just think it's lost its way into its own sort of, world of where this everything 100 Thieves does is great sort of thing. And it's not. So, yeah, but that's my opinion. It's controversial. People love them.
Well, I in that case, I hope their objectives for the video was to make people cringe, I suppose. if that's your assessment of it. But so we've got some listener questions, and I know we're reaching towards the end. We've got probably 10 minutes or so. So I want to jump into that, and the wonderful Nathan has picked some out for us. So one of them here is, when approaching players for content, how do you manage their personality if they're more introverted, but you want to make them look funny or cool? I think we can extend that to like basically anyone you want to get into a video. So it could be staff members as well, or something along those lines. I don't want to jump in on basically how to bring the best out of someone, or that I don't want to say fundamentally change who they are, but yeah, I guess bring the best out of them and make them content ready.
I can maybe jump in here. I really like to speak about promiscue phenomenon that we've done with G2. And, the guy was a substitute player who didn't play a single game on stage, but the audience was chanting his name, and he's, MSI champion. So I think the most important thing when approaching players is to actually have a conversation with them and try, again, educate and explain the importance of content in general, and then try to find touching points of what sort of fits their personality, and maybe, just slightly exaggerate here and there. But like, if it's absolutely not fitting or fake, it's always very visible when people are uncomfortable or they don't sort of, play into the role. What we always did is we never considered players to be actors. We of course consider them to be talent, but they're not actors, and you cannot have expectations that they will overnight turn actors. So I think it's our job to make it as comfortable and as natural as possible, to bring out their best sides, to bring out their humor, sometimes very quirky. Again, like Caps, he has like probably one of the weirdest senses of humor, and fans love him for that. And it's just on us to pick up on it, So I think it's just actually being like an empath and soaking in what they give to you, and then picturing it out, or like figuring it out and putting together as a puzzle into what their content persona could be.
Awesome, thank you. Any additions to that?
I agree with Karina completely. I think it's a mix between building rapport and trust with these individuals, and treat them honestly like human beings, bringing out the best in them, like you said, by having conversations, understanding what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with, helping them understand the benefits as well sometimes, because I think a lot of these pro players can often be quite young and not necessarily understand the power of them being present in the content that you do, in the brands that they work with and whatnot. So helping them learn how to do it and why they are doing it is going to just build that trust to help them understand that this is also for their mutual benefits. And yeah, over time, hopefully, to some extent, right, that they will kind of come out of their shell the more they're used to it as well. And like Karina said, don't fake it. Everyone knows. Everyone can see it, especially in a video format. It's very easy to spot. So make sure that it is something authentic at the end of the day.
Lovely stuff. And Mr. Lopez, have you got anything to add?
No, it's the Karina and Zen's both covered it completely there. Yeah, it's all about relationship building and rapport building and trust, really.
Beautiful.
I think a lot of them, the ones that I've worked with, they fear looking silly. Really, is one of their biggest fears, and that they don't want to get trolled by the community. So it is about building up that trust with them and that relationship building. Yeah,
makes sense. So we've got another question here, listener question, and this will be the last one or second to last. We'll see what else comes through. I'll have another look when we're getting some answers. But someone said it feels like a lot of the industry jobs are gotten through connections more than pure resume or portfolio. How do you make yourself known or stand out when applying for or looking for jobs / opportunities? If anyone's got any advice on that front.
Yeah, I can weigh on this one. I've done a lot of hiring over the years, and I don't think it is a lot of connections. Personally, it hasn't been for me. I mean, shout out to Hitmarker. We used Hitmarker a lot in the past, and they haven't paid me to say that, by the way. It's it's about just having the right experience for the job, and if you haven't got the right experience, outlining why you do feel like you have the right experience. One thing is too many. I've seen a lot of CVs and things before in the past as well that are lacking a lot of relation to the actual job that's been posted. But I still think people can go out on a limb and apply for something if you maybe haven't got the right experience, but it's about explaining and justifying why you should be considered. A good story, I'm a sucker for a good story. So yeah.
And Karina, what when you were building out the team at G2, what kind of things would you look for? What would grab your attention when it came to looking to bring people into the fold?
Yeah, I've been like hiring a lot of people over the years
Okay.
as well, and honestly, there's like a couple of elements. So first, to have relevant experience, but I also think that people a little bit are too afraid when there's like experience request. It's more making your case that you're capable to do the job. So you don't necessarily have to, again, like I think video editor example is really good because you don't have to have worked as a video editor, but you have to show me a proof of you being capable of doing the job. So depending on the position, ideally portfolio, of course, like depending again, is it entry level, is it junior, is it senior? For anything that is above junior, there is an expectation that there should be some proven track record or another job, but also like all the internships and just work done in terms of like, I don't know, moderating Discord, moderating Twitch, all of that counts. So I think like, you know, when people speak about connections, sometimes it's not the connection the way you think that someone is your friend. But for example, I know that a lot of social media specialists made their way up just by being active on social media. And we don't know them personally, but they keep popping up, you know, they're in the conversation. Event people or like broadcast people, they go to events or they try to connect. A lot of industry professionals actually are super approachable, and I would probably say that all of us here today are like that. If someone wants to ask a question or pop into, you know, my DMs, this is all cool. I think just people need to do that first step, you know. So this is probably it for me. And then, of course, like I said, ideally have relevant skill set or experience and be good at the job.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Zandolf, as your Discord user is.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to advise people again to, and this is what I said earlier, right? Learn how to learn, because by doing that, you actually learn how to, for example, as Trina said, if you want to do event management, maybe try and go to an event, speak to people, help understand what goes into it, figure out what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and then learn along the way. For example, with social media as well, be present, be aware, have a good understanding of what's out there, what works, what doesn't work. Take the time to actually figure out these things on your own while you're doing the job. And all this basically comes with experience over time, right? And even networking, sure, there are some occasions where networking is going to help, but networking is also a skill set that you should be learning over time. As Karina said, right, it's not necessarily that like just because we're friends that you'll get a job, but it's really making the connection, build the rapport, build that trust as well with people to show them that you can do it. So it's really a learning process along the way. And I'm, you know, even after being a decade in the industry and whatnot, it's still a learning process for me myself anyway. Like consulting, for example, me going freelance is something that is brand new to me, and I'm learning along the way as well. So that would be my advice.
Plenty of great tips. Thank you all very much. And now, so we've got networking coming up in 15 minutes. But before we all go and end this panel, we'll go alphabetical order again, just for a bit of order among the chaos. An opportunity for you to shout out where people can find you, what you're working on, so they can stay in touch and obviously try and learn some bits and bobs and even reach out to you all. If Danny would like to go first, then we'll go Korean, and then we'll go Zan, and then we'll wrap up and get prepared for networking.
Yeah, I'm at Lopez Creative on Twitter. Probably the best place to find me. I think my DMs are open. I opened them up a while ago. And yeah, I am actually even currently hiring for a marketing intern. So anybody that's maybe studying or has a little bit of experience, feel free to hit me up. That will be going up on Hitmarker next week as well. So
Shout out Hitmarker. Lovely stuff. Thank you, Danny and Karina.
Well, so yeah, I know that I have a complicated last name, but this is why I made it my handle on all networks, so people learn it, I guess. So it's at Zimenite on Twitter, Instagram. Instagram is not really professional in the sense that I post dog photos mainly there, but if you like dogs, you're welcome to come. And I already saw some of you guys popping up on LinkedIn and connecting, so we can do that as well. And yes, if you have actually questions or need an advice, always feel free. Sometimes it takes me a while to respond, but I always try my best to answer all messages.
So you can find me best on Twitter at Zan_Wong or on LinkedIn. So there's not many Zan Wong. So I'm sure if you search somewhere, I will probably appear. Feel free to follow me. Feel free to message me. I believe my DMs are open on Twitter. Oftentimes as well, I have obviously connections with clients that are looking for, opportunities to seek people out for jobs and whatnot. So feel free to just follow me there. I occasionally post them as well, and if not, I will probably be reaching out to certain people and whatnot. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining and sharing your earned wisdom, and obviously for everyone for attending to listen as well.